Happy Wednesday, 2 minutes in the box with Gordo. It's May 7th, 2025. The daily grind news and rumors and updates. Today, we're going to recap last night's crazy games between the Vegas Golden Knights, Edmonton Oilers, and the Carolina Hurricanes and the Washington Capitals, and previewing game one of Winnipeg and Dallas, and game two of the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and their latest news and rumors and updates. All right, so first up, let's talk about last night, shall we? Interesting matchup, should we say? Washington Capitals and the Carolina Hurricanes. Close game, overtime. Carolina dominated. Washington felt like they had the lead majority of the game. And then until Logan Stankoven tied the game up in the third period. Nice turn, nice defensive play by Jarmo Ketiemi, getting that primary assist. And Jacob Slavin getting the game-winning goal in overtime. Assist by Jordan Motnuk and Dmitry Orlov, and first career goal for the first game the first period, second period, I should say. Protas gets his first career goal. The big man himself, Duhaime, and John Carlson. Yeah, I gotta tell you, interesting game, and I believe Carolina Washington is going to be a back and forth series. It's not over yet. I got a feeling it's going to be going to seven. Yeah, I believe this one's going to go to seven. And that's where I see it coming there. And now let's talk about this. The Vegas Golden Knights, in their short history, they've been around since 2017 and it's 2025. 8 years they've been in the league. They missed the playoffs once, and they've been in the playoffs 7 out of those 8 years. The craziest stat that I heard and saw yesterday before this game was after leading in the first period, right? In the first period, they had a 24-0 record, 24-0 for a multi-goal lead in the playoffs. And then the Edmonton Oilers just dismantled the Vegas Golden Knights for 4 straight after that. And it's no surprise. I mean, Corey Perry played one heck of a game. Connor McDavid, no surprise. I mean, this squad is looking for vengeance. This squad is on a mission. They are pissed. I mean, Vegas looks slow and sluggish. It looks slow and sluggish at some points of the game. I mean, Edmonton looked like the better team. They looked like the better team. And I gotta tell Calvin Pickard played his ass off. I mean, he played very well. Aiden Hill played sloppy in the final 40 minutes of the game. It looked pretty obvious. It looked pretty obvious from all the stats we were looking at. I mean, just simply like, oh my God, And then what sucks for Vegas is that a late scratch from Alex Petrangelo with an undisclosed illness. Yeah, pretty sucky, not to have one of your best defensemen out there to help out. And yeah, that looked pretty costly indeed. It looked costly indeed. And yeah, I'll tell you, that game one was epic for the Oilers. That's what they needed. That's the exact jolt they really needed. And Edmonton is on a mission. They're pissed off. Like I said, they are one pissed off team right now that they want this Stanley Cup very badly. And look at the numbers. Edmonton had 28 shots on goal, 17 for Vegas. Majority of the faceoffs were won by the Edmonton Oilers. Vegas, though, they got the power play going. And, I would hit Vegas in favor and then block shots, etc. I believe this series is going to be, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. And, Calvin Pickard's save percentage was a .882. Ooh, save percentages are going to be not as sexy in the playoffs as in the regular season. And then, .857 for Aiden Hill. I got to tell you, it's not looking good for goaltending, and playoffs, expect the unexpected. All right, now let's get to tonight's games. Tonight's games, we got two feisty ones on ESPN. Game 2 between the Florida Panthers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sam Bennett, not suspended. And then, meanwhile, Anthony Stolarz, he's out for game 2, and Wool is starting in net for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Florida Panthers are at a minus 142, and the Maple Leafs are at a plus 120. Interesting stats and comparisons. And the number one key for the Florida Panthers is tonight is to have a fast start like Toronto did in game one. You got to have quick starts and no stopping. Always keep the pedal on the metal. Don't let up. The advice is key. Win your draws. Don't draw stupid attention to penalties. Do the job right. And for Toronto to keep the lead, do exactly what you did in game one, but don't be too cocky in the second half of the game. That's what happened. You guys had a big lead and you ended up winning 5-4. My thing, Toronto, keep your composure. Florida, quick starts and immediate drives. I want you guys to bury the puck. Make sure the opposing team doesn't help the goaltending out in the home base inside of the face-off. Don't let up. Make sure get the rebound and bury the puck. And Toronto, you're speedy, but Florida's got the grit. I don't care what they say. Like the old school hockey mentality. Old school mentality hockey would kick the shit out of Harlem Globetrotter crap hockey any day of the week. It's playoff hockey. It doesn't matter how fast and offensive you are. It doesn't work. Look what happened to the Red Wings in the past, until 1996-97 season. Look at certain teams. Look at the certain teams. Past experiences will prove future success. That's the way I see in this game. So I got the Florida Panthers winning this one. This is going to go to overtime tonight. It's going to be a controversial one. Like I said, controversy, it's all talk. I'm telling you, the controversy is always the hot topic. I'm going Florida Panthers, overtime win. And now game one between the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets. Division rivals yet again. And then you got Dallas at minus 115. And you've got the Winnipeg Jets at minus 105. Close matchup indeed. I got to say, this one right here, Winnipeg worries me because, they were very sloppy in the first round. They barely got out of there alive. And I got to say, Dallas is on a mission too. Yeah, they want to get back into the conference finals. They got a deep roster, but this right here, I'm not gonna lie, I see this game going to overtime as well. Winnipeg, you better get those oxygen tanks, the oxygen drinks ready, because it's going to be a long series. I'm going to go Dallas in overtime. Not even one, maybe two. I mean, that's where I'm seeing it. Both teams just played game sevens, and it's going to be a hectic battle. And I believe that we're going to see these two teams on crutches. I'm not kidding. These two teams will be on crutches by the time the conference finals gets around, because when they play Vegas or Edmonton, they're going to be in the same boat. They're going to be in the same boat. Yeah, we're going to see that in the same boat as well. Yeah, so let's talk about the news and the rumors, shall we? Oh, yeah, news and rumors, the grind of it all. Yeah, let's talk about this. I'm just curious what to think of this, Stolar's being hospitalized and all that. And, Bennett avoided suspension, I think the league did the right call because, hey, if it's regular season, you get suspended. In the playoffs, you turn the blind eye and you just hand them $100 bill, just like, that movie. What was that movie with Rob Schneider and David Spade, that baseball movie, that about the little league stuff, whatever, I would say, yeah, like he says he's 12. Yeah, just pay the money and turn the other way. So he's just basically bribing. So yeah, I would say this is going to be a good matchup right there. And yeah, the Panthers got that reputation. It's a grit and grind team, It's a combination of the 1970s Philadelphia Flyers and the Detroit Red Wings in the 90s and 2000s. They're bringing that mentality. Everybody wants that Edmonton Oilers high offense and classy yacht rock crap. You don't need that. Play a little Detroit Rock City Kiss stuff, like you need the energy. You need the grit and grind. That's how you're going to make it. Not soft rock ballads. You got to take it all the way. That's how you're going to be a successful team in the NHL. And yeah, and going back to the Winnipeg Jets, Dallas Stars, we got reports that Mark Scheifele and Josh Morrissey and Logan Stanley are basically going to be playing tonight. Yeah, you heard it here. This is going to be one heck of a matchup. Oh, yeah, this is going to be one hell of a matchup tonight. And yeah, so we've been hearing reports that Jared Bednauer for the Colorado Avalanche is staying behind the bench with the Colorado Avalanche next season. However, Ray Bennett relieved of his duties and basically ran the power play for 8 seasons. Hey, NHL teams, if you're looking for an assistant coach that can muster up and improve your power play, sign his ass up. That's where you got to go. Any team, teams who don't make the players who just got eliminated, reevaluate your staff and reevaluate your situation. That's what you got to do. Now we've got Luke Robitaille expects that Jim Hiller to return next season. I expect him gone, but Rob Blake, though, he voluntarily left the LA Kings. And I believe that we spoke this yesterday that Mark Bergevin will be becoming the next GM of the LA Kings. They're doing all this tight knit in group type of thing. And the Ottawa Senators parted ways with associate GM Ryan Bonus, and that expected that director of player personnel Rod DeMalo will be moving in that role in that promotion. And something tells me if Tampa Bay loses their assistant GM, wouldn't be surprised Bonus's kid becomes the next assistant GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning. Oh yeah. This right here, and I say this, Jordan Kyrou, he's gonna be available, in the trade market, but his stock is very impressive. I am very concerned about trading him. Hell, I keep him. The Blues are on the rise, and then they're talking about, re-engaging with Braden Shen, and I would keep Braden. He's been a great leader, and start next season. He's got 3 years left of his contract at $6.5 million. His no movement clause to 15 teams, no trade list on July 1st. Keep him. St. Louis is on the rise. This team is young, they're viable and reliable. I think St. Louis is going to be a deep, deep team next season. And yeah, and then we've been hearing that Brock Nelson could be on the block, but they're thinking here. Colorado's thinking like, do we keep Brocky Nelson? Do we go for Sam Bennett, or do we go for John Tavares? And with Charlie Coyle and all that stuff, but something in that makes me wonder, if I were Colorado, I would be basically saying, we got some cap space, but our core, we got a great nucleus. The window of opportunity is not closed just yet because Joe Sakic said it best. The window is going to be open for a very long time with Cal McCarr and Nathan McKinnon on that roster. There's no way that, that window closes. If I were Colorado, you guys got to find something that, can help you guys in the long run. I mean, Nietzsche is not bad at all. He's going to get a contract extension, but, losing Mikko Rantanen is going to hurt you guys for many years to come. And looking at this, you've got Miles Wood and Ross Colton as cost-cutting trade candidates. Something tells me, those two are gone. And then the Avalanche, they could peddle, Martin Nietzsche if they would really like to. The guy had a career year, 27 goals, 83 points. It's the McKinnon effect. It's that Nathan McKinnon effect. Nietzsche has always been on that bridge deal. Colorado could be investing on Nietzsche for a 6, maybe 7 or 8 years. That's where I would draw the line. That's where I draw the line. And yeah, so and looking at this right now, the highest value, isn't among. So still shipping him out as part of the Mikko Rantanen trade. Yeah, and trade wouldn't look good on management. They didn't get a decent return. Like, keep Martin Nietzsche, Colorado. He's a very underrated player. Keep him. You guys made that sacrifice, with the whole Mikko Rantanen thing, and it really backfired. But Nietzsche's is not bad. Keep him. Career numbers. give him a deal between 4 to 8 years. That's where I draw the line right there. And then you got the New York Islanders update with GM Hunt. Yeah, some idiot got offended by these report about Ken Holland becoming the possible next GM of the New York Islanders. And I'm like thinking to myself, like he's like, who's Arthur Staple? And I'm like, are you kidding? He's a beat writer for the Athletic for the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. He's the one reporting this, and I got my insight. Yeah, so there could be a possibility. Does Patrick Wall survive, or does the new GM come in and sweep and clean house? Because it's going to be interesting since the New York Islanders won the lottery the other day. Yeah, I'm still surprised by the New York Islanders winning the lottery. And, I mean, this is going to be a very difficult, draft. And I would say right here and all, this right here is going to be a very interesting class. You've got offense, you've got defense, and something tells me I like where the Islanders are at, and it sped up the whole GM search. And I gotta tell you, if I were the Islanders, do I trade Noah Dobson and a second round pick to get Chicago Blackhawks third overall pick? And then you got two lottery picks. And then, you've got pretty good choices. You got James Haggins. Haggins is a Long Island kid, and something tells me, the kid's got a lot of talent. After his freshman year, 11 goals, 26 assists, 37 points in 37 games. Not too bad. And then you've got Matthew Schaefer. Matthew Schaefer played for the Erie Otters, 17 games played this past season with 7 goals, 15 assists, 22 points in 17 games. It's a very risky situation. It's a very risky situation. I mean, it is basically, listen, the 2024 World U18s, him and Team Canada undefeated in gold medal finish, although overshadowed by Gavin McKenna. But, he was basically unbelievable on the power play and the penalty kill. And he was the captain of the 2024 Hlinka Gretzky Cup. And yeah, and here's the thing though. After scoring a goal and assist in the first game of the 2025 World Junior Championships, Schaefer broke his collarbone and basically in that upset loss against Latvia. I mean, I would be like very hesitant. It's a very sensitive subject. I mean, I believe that in the boardroom, right? In the boardroom right now, in the scouting department and whoever's running the show, it's going to be a very difficult vote. It's going to end up 50-50. I think it, and we've been seeing, Michael Misa stock is dropped, and it's going to be one of those things. And, it's just, very difficult, and, and all the pundits are saying, yeah, Schaefer's going to go one. Then you got Misa going two. And then and then everything is all mixed up. But man, I really think that the Islanders, they got themselves in a very good situation. This Islander squad got themselves in a very good situation. And yeah, so like I said, so they've been talking to Ken Holland, Jeff Gordon, and they also been talking to Mark Bergevin. They've been talking to Jarmo Kekalainen, Peter Chiarelli. This is old stuff from yesterday, but Neil Smith is in the mix, and the assistant GM from the New Jersey Devils is also in the mix. And for the record, I would love to be on the list. You know why? I know what it takes to be a hockey executive. I know what the Islanders need. I know what they're missing in their organization. They need someone to have balls to make sure they're on the right path and they're taken care of. And I would love to bring Chris Chapoto, Chris Moody, Teddy Richards, and Richard Krause on my organization. They would be in my management team. and I'd get Dougie Waite and etc. I would bring those guys into my organization. You got to have hockey minds. You know what the hell going on behind the scenes. You got to have smarts. No more this, oh yeah, been there, done that. Oh yeah, And I just don't think these candidates are the right choices because, this Islanders team, was like it was very unexpected how Lou left. It was very unexpected. I really think that, we would have seen a great solution with that whole thing. And you got the assistant GM of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that's why we're going to see Bonus's kid might be going over there. But looking at everything we see here, I really see the Islanders taking the next step, you know, and there's talk. I believe that the next GM of the New York Islanders. Here's my prediction. I'm gonna go. It's either gonna be Neil Smith, the former New York Rangers GM, or Jarmo Kekalainen. That's where I see where the New York Islanders are gonna go. Ken Holland. Why the hell would you want to GM? The New York Islanders, dude. You inherited the Red Wings and you inherited the Oilers. For the record, don't come to Long Island. There's no way you're going to come to Long Island because this organization is not your right cup of tea. It needs a lot of TLC. It went from going to the conference finals 2 years in a row and almost making it to the Stanley Cup finals to like a crossroads of what the hell's going on. Yeah, I really think we're going to see someone like Jarmo Kekalainen to come in to take on the job. Yeah, that's where I see where everything is at right now with the New York Islanders. And now we've got the moment of truth. It's no surprise. Thanks a lot, internet leakers and tweakers. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, you internet leakers and tweakers, that it's Utah Mammoth. All right, they ruined the good surprise on leaks and tweaks. Serious and tweakers. Seriously? I love the name. Don't get me wrong. It would have been fun with Yeti, but legal actions with the Yeti company. Utah Mammoth, it rolls off the tongue. And then the Kroenke family, who own the National Lacrosse League box lacrosse team and the indoor lacrosse league, the Colorado Mammoth, hey, they went along with it. They're like, what the hell? Works for us. And it's technically in that mountain range. So, yeah. So, and don't forget, it's going to be funny that we've got two teams with big, big teeth playing against each other next season within the Nashville Predators and the Utah Mammoth. It's going to be a fun thing to see. And yeah, and like I said about Jordan Kyrou going to be traded, I don't think it's a smart move. I wouldn't trade him for one bit. No. St. Louis is on a run. I would say St. Louis, keep your core together. I believe in you guys. You guys are going to be making a deep playoff run next year. And the Tampa Bay Lightning signed Jonas Johnson to a 2-year contract extension. Smart move by the Tampa Bay Lightning. Very smart move indeed. And yeah, and then hearing about, oh yeah, about Marco Rossi. Keep the kid. You've got a lot of room, Minnesota, in your cap space. Get Kirill signed to I don't give a shit or a fuck about contract, but sign the dude so that you don't lose him. And Minnesota Wild, I feel bad for Marc-Andre Fleury because he's retiring and all. You could have stayed one more year because Minnesota's building something very special over there. I wouldn't be surprised that the Wild, win that division next year. That Central Division is going to be wild. No pun intended. But yeah, I see everything going. And yeah, and then we've been hearing, Torrey Krug, his ankle's all screwed up. He's definitely going to be on the LTIR and contract and all that stuff, for the rest of his career. It's sad and tragic. And yeah, and hearing Dylan Larkin going to Vancouver, I mean, are we sure that's a smart move? To me, if I was the Red Wings, and after I saw how my captain acted during the press conference at the end of the season, you know, it won't hurt to move on from him. I just don't think Dylan is captain material anymore for the Red Wings. I just think he's, an entitled homer that basically, can't get the job done. His numbers are above average. He's not a goddamn superstar. No. He is above average. Steve Eisenman, superstar. Brendan Shanahan, superstar. Sergey Fedorov, superstar. Keith Primo, above average. Nick Lindstrom, legend, superstar. Slava Kozlov, star. You know, those guys are stars. Alex DeBrincat, superstar. Lucas Raymond, superstar. Mo Sider, superstar. Yeah. Dylan Larkin, above average. Michael Rasmussen, above to the little point of average. The Red Wings need new blood. They need to shake the locker room quick because, I don't care about Dylan Larkin. Larkin really affected the Red Wings. He didn't do much in the second half. When he was out back last year, when the Red Wings needed him the most, he fizzled. Same thing. When he was healthy, he phased out. That's not the way to do it. He's been in that organization since the 2014 draft. He's been playing in that system since 2015-16. And, if things don't change in Detroit, Dylan Larkin is gone. Trade him. I don't care. Trade the kid. Trade him. I really think it's time to move on from that. Yeah, so now let's get to the money puck odds of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's talk about those odds, shall we? So, according to the new reports today, we got the Carolina Hurricanes at a 19.4% chance of winning. Toronto at second at 17.1. Third, Winnipeg at 13.4. Dallas at 12.1, along with the Edmonton Oilers tied. The Vegas Golden Knights at 9.2. The Florida Panthers at 11.6. Washington Capitals at the lowest odds at 5.1%. Yeah, something tells me that we're going to see a very interesting, second round. I'm just saying this, Florida better play their game tonight against Toronto. And, I tell you, Carolina to me, they're going to be, like I said before the playoffs, Carolina Hurricanes will be that team that's going to be not crippled by the conference finals. They're going to be the non-crippled team left. And they're not going to be on crutches. They're going to be standing. They're going to be like tough as nails, like Rod Brindamore is on triathlons. Rod the Bod, and he's got a great cast of players. And if the Florida Panthers do lose in the playoffs, I'm going to be going for the Carolina Hurricanes. And I would love to see Brett Burns finally get that Stanley Cup. This has been 2 Minutes in the Box with Gordo, the Daily Grind news, rumors, and updates. We'll be back here tomorrow for latest news, rumors, and updates and other episodes. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, etc. Have a great day, everybody.